Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's meeting of the Board of School Directors Academic Affairs Committee meeting. It is October 6th at 4:02 in the afternoon. I'm Dr. Damian Johnston. I serve as the Assistant Superintendent in Springfield Township, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's meeting on behalf of the members of our Board of School Directors. Thanks everyone for being here today. As we often do, we have a nice full agenda. We're going to start with an introduction of our student representatives, which we'll do in just a second, folks who are serving with us this year. I have overview and updates to provide on our business courses at the high school, so we'll talk about that. And then the moment everyone has been waiting for, our annual student achievement update and overview, and then guest appearances by our building administrators and department coordinators and directors to talk about our action plan. So given what we know about our student performance data, what are our priorities for the year ahead? So before we get started too far, I'm going to ask William and Jordana to unmute themselves and to introduce themselves to you. This year, we are pleased again to have 2 student representatives assigned to this committee, Academic Affairs, to share the student experience and to help us think about our conversation through the lens of our students. William, can you introduce yourself to the members of our Board of School Directors and to the community for anyone who's watching this recording?
Yeah, thank you for having me. So I'm William May. I'm an 11th grader at the high school. I've been involved in a couple things like this, the advisory committee for the superintendents and the principals, and I'm just really excited for this opportunity. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, William. We're glad you're here. Jordana?
Yeah, thank you for having me as well. I'm Jordana Albanese. I'm also a junior. I've been involved in lots of different leadership positions throughout the school. And I'm also very excited to be here. So thank you for having me.
One of the advantages we've always had since we've been having students on the committee is there's things we sometimes don't think of or questions that community members might have that we don't even think to address. So please feel free to unmute yourself or ask questions as members of the committee, and we're going to work to answer them or get you the additional information you need to help ensure that we are where we need to be and sharing information with our public. So thank you both for being here. All right, getting started. As we know, we have our mission of our school district. I also shared the equity statement and then the vision. The idea that we are a community of caring, rooted in equitable practices really drives this work, particularly today at our annual presentation of our student performance data. First up today is curriculum review for new members of the committee. Each department and course throughout the entire school district K-12 comes up for revision approximately every 7 years. Last year, Mr. Levin won the lottery as a department of 1 to take a look at our business offerings and courses. To be fair, that department 5 years ago really didn't even exist. So it's exciting that we're here and finally sort of getting all of our ducks in a row and all our courses lined up. Mr. Levin has worked with his department coordinator, Mr. Kim McCaslin, our instructional coach, Mrs. Fraccassini, and certainly the building administrators to take a look at the content of those courses. And so we have an overview. Mr. Levin, do you want me to talk and you want to weigh in, or would you like to present sort of the brief overview to the committee? What do you think would work best?
No, I think you can take it, and then I'll just be here if people have questions. I'm happy to jump in at any point.
Weigh in and clarify if I'm going off the ramp here. Most importantly, the course that we've talked a lot about and we'll be back to talk about again in a few months is personal finance / financial literacy. As this committee is aware from last year, PDE is requiring that area of instruction, an important area of instruction, beginning next year. So Dr. Scragan, Dr. Rittenhouse, and I are working with Mr. Levin and other members of the high school community to determine where and how we'll be offering that course. But here is that sort of foundational course, although we have some alternative ways we can meet that requirement as well. So that's the first one we're going to share with you is personal finance / financial literacy. These are all half credit courses, the courses that we're talking about, and they are electives. This is the exception where it will become a required course in the future. The overview of this course is to provide critical personal finance skills and make sure that our students are leaving high school with a solid understanding about spending, saving, risk, insurance, credit, some of those key ideas that many of us would have benefited from had we had this opportunity when we were coming out of high school. As we always do, we share the major course assessment, the guiding essential questions for the course, which you can see are here. And then sort of the course is broken down into 4 units: values, habits, and financial foundations, credit and managing debt, savings and investment, and career research. And then Mr. Levin has helped to organize in the other 2 columns sort of the key content that is delivered in each of those instructional units. Any questions or comments from members of the committee about personal finance?
Nope.
Excellent. Are okay to proceed to moving that course along?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. Mr. Levin also developed his overview for the Introduction to Business course, another half-credit elective at the high school, really taking a look at how entrepreneurial skills examine financial structures, ethics, and supply and demand in local, regional, and of course, the global economy. And this course has 6 essential questions that guide the overall course. And there are 4 instructional units: business by the numbers, economic fundamentals, business and the economy, and entrepreneurship and ethics. This has a lot of content. It's not lost on me that may be hard to read on the screen. They are clickable documents that I will share with the committee in our minutes. But overview is really understanding the way in which business comes to have an influence and implications in our society. Mr. Levin, did I get that?
Yeah, I think that captures it. The way it's structured is we start with financial, teach them a little bit of financial skills about how businesses look at their performance using the numbers, sales and margin, and so it's sort of just a very bright, quick intro to accounting. Then the next 2 units are really economics. The first one being more microeconomics, the second one being more macro. So how businesses exist in the overall economy. And then we sort of dive into what businesses actually do from the perspective of entrepreneurship from there.
You said it perfectly. Far more depth and detail than I would be able to offer. So I appreciate that, Mr. Levin.
Sure.
Any questions or comments about the Introduction to Business course?
No, other than it looks really solid and super helpful. And definitely, I agree with you, Damien. I would have appreciated this kind of story when I was at school.
Many of you may know, but Mr. Levin's courses, these business courses, are some of our highest enrolled electives. Like, these are full courses that students are really gravitating towards. And I think it's helpful, as many will say they want to study business when they get to college, but haven't actually taken a business course. So the opportunity to dig in a little bit as a high school student and figure out interest or not interest in these areas is one of our pathways towards career preparation. So I appreciate the work on this area. Okay to proceed with moving this course along?
Yep.
Mrs. Okay. Third of 4, principles of marketing. This course really takes a look at marketing frameworks to explore business strategy and applying those principles in real life situations to support innovation and business insights. This course too has 5 essential questions, really taking a look at what are the ways in which marketing helps you to meet your sort of business goals. 4 units of study in this course: marketing fundamentals, branding and the consumer, consumer understanding, marketing strategy, product, price and promotion, and then advertising, media and promotion. So these 4 units provide some structure to the learning of the course and get students a solid understanding of the way in which marketing communication and overall marketing approaches help the success or not of a particular business or industry. Mr. Levin, how'd I do?
You did well. I noticed one very small thing on the slide that I didn't pick up, but unit 3 is product, price, and placement, not promotion. That's why promotion said twice. But these are, if you know the basics of marketing, the 4 P's of marketing are product, price, promotion, and placement. But essentially, this course is really designed like an entry-level college marketing class would be. If you were in a business department in a college, it would follow sort of a similar structure, but I try to approach it from a way that becomes very applicable for a person just sort of exploring business to try to pique their interest in business for future study. But the concepts are very much what you would learn if you were to take up marketing in your first year of college or business school.
Mr. Levin. Any questions or comments from the committee for Mr. Levin or I?
I have a question just on the last unit. I did a business studies course many years ago, and things have dramatically moved on since then. Just thinking about the media aspect, does that like include social media and that type of thing now?
Yeah, no, it would have to, right? So,
Yeah.
so now in the, back, actually, when I even, I don't feel that old, but when I, when I learned these things, and I've worked in marketing for 30 some years before I decided to become a teacher, but, TV was the dominant form of media, at that time. Today, that is absolutely not the case. TV is still important, but yeah, the focus is a little bit more on digital forms of media now because it's just the more relevant one. So good question.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mr. Levin. Any other questions from the committee for Mr. Levin or I on this course? And support to move this course along
Good to
to
go
the
from
next
me.
phase? Fantastic. And last but certainly not least is our entrepreneurship course. In this half-credit elective, students get to use and apply concepts to create, launch, and manage the idea of a small business. They're really making a business strategy proposal and creating a comprehensive business plan. This course has 5 overarching questions and 5 units of study: the role of entrepreneurship, discovery, planning and resourcing, product, price and place, and advertising and promotion in that last unit of study. Questions or comments for Mr. Levin or me? Eileen?
Just a quick question, and I'm sorry, you may have said this in the last one. These last how long?
These courses or these units?
I guess it's the 5 units are one course.
Correct.
Right? So how long is this, like a half a year thing?
It's a 1 semester every other day. So
Okay.
students at the high school have a block schedule, as you know. And so
I know I don't understand, but yes,
I know.
I will
Well,
never understand.
you will. This happens every other day for 90 days, so 45 days of course meetings.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
Other questions or comments around this last course that we're bringing you this afternoon? And okay to move it forward?
Okay from me.
Excellent.
Good
Thank
with
you
me. I
all.
was just trying to make a joke to the students that they'll never understand that when we went to school, Monday was Monday and Tuesday was Tuesday. There was no day 1, day 2 blocks. It was never
Indeed.
like that.
Indeed.
So I will never understand how they know what. I always commend the students of today, how you know what day it is, where to go. It always amazes me.
Amazing. I'm with you, Mrs. Bell. I'm with you. All right, Mr. Levin, excellent work. We are ready to move on to our next phase.
Yeah.
So this is a great success and accomplishment. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks
And
for your
while
time,
you're
Del. Yeah.
absolutely
thank you.
welcome to stay and listen to our academic update, you are also free to find something else to do with your afternoon.
I have some business proposals I got to go through.
I'm sure.
Our future entrepreneurs. So thank you so much, and
Have a great rest of your afternoon, Mr.
thank you.
Levin.
Take
Thanks
Yeah,
again.
thanks, Del.
Yep.
Thanks everyone for that. And in the meantime, the rest of our instructional leadership team has joined our conversation this afternoon. So I appreciate everybody being here. Dr. Yannicone and I every year prepare ourselves for, and our building leaders and department leaders to present to you our academic performance. So I'm going to get us started, and then Dr. Yannicone and I will tag team in sharing some of the overview and information on our performance from last school year. First thing that would I'm going to remind us, because we talk about it all the time, right? Everything we're doing is grounded in preparing students for that future ready experience, ensuring that we've created student graduates who have the skills necessary to be successful in whichever pathways towards post-secondary life they have selected, be that career, college, or the armed forces, or additional opportunities that might present themselves. And so we continue to keep this at the forefront of our focus in preparing today's presentation, as well as the work we do here in the district. In preparing, sort of in thinking about our overall data, the part that I think we've come to continue to understand is our belonging data continues to be extraordinarily successful. Most students express a high level of belonging in their experience in school. Where we want to continue to focus our work is to bring along sort of that high levels of academic success for each student as well. We have committed educators, we have dedicated students and families, and we want to continue to make that meaningful impact. But there is uneven performance in our data, and opportunity for growth exists when we take a look. So we're continuing to work with our faculty and staff to think about how we can deliver outcomes that work the best for each learner, and using where we are as motivation and clarity in our next steps forward as we are dedicated to that continuous improvement. Dr. Yannicone, you'll let me know if you're ready to tag in at any point. Okay. I don't want to just plow through and not catch you on my sites. So the first thing is just sort of a reminder for this committee, sort of how our demographics in our school district break down. We serve 73% of the students who were enrolled in this school district last year were white, 6.5% of the students were multiracial, 8% Hispanic, 9% were Black, and 3.4% were Asian or Pacific Islander. We also identified for you the program enrollment of our students. 23% of our students identify as being experiencing economic disadvantage. 2.4% of our student body identify as English language learners, meaning the language at their home or the language that is their first language is not English. And 22% of our students received special education supports and services, and 0.5% were homeless and or experienced unstable housing. When we have, over the past few years, worked to identify how can we disaggregate our data to take a look at our performance and understand whose needs we're meeting and where we could enhance our performance, we have come to understand that given that 23% of our students experience economic disadvantage, we needed to understand that group first. It's the largest subgroup of our students. Dr. Aberly, you're raising your hand.
Do we understand how much of that there is overlap with?
So
as in, you know, I mean, I think a lot of the data point to the fact that economically disadvantaged children may also fall into one of those other groups as well. So do we understand that piece as well?
So 75% of that 23%, 75% of them are multilingual learners.
Okay.
Of that 23%, over half of them are Hispanic or Black.
Okay.
1/3 of them are students who are with disabilities, and 1/3 of them are multiracial learners.
Okay, yeah, so there's
a high over, exactly, Dr. Aberly, that's the high overlap, right? So why are we focusing on economic disadvantage? It's not because the other subgroups aren't relevant or don't have performance disparity, but this one group encompasses those students. So it allows us to really focus our conversation, analytics, and action steps around a particular group, which will have positive, if it works for one group, it's going to, ultimately the data and the research would suggest those are the strategies that will also work for all subgroups to help students experience higher levels of academic success and achievement.
That makes perfect sense. No, thank you for that clarity.
No problem. That's why I want people to ask questions before I just plow along. And so that's really important to me. So what we know is that 23% is the lowest possible number. That number could be higher. They're just families who have not chosen to identify because the data we have is around access to particular programs or services. So there still may be more students who experience economic barriers or limitations as a result of the financial structure or stress within their home. So for us, when I start to show you this disaggregated data, that's why we've chosen sort of our overall performance and then our performance as represented only by those students who experience economic disadvantage. To be clear, I'm going to show you everyone, including those students. So the performance, if I took the students with economic disadvantage, the disparity actually might be higher. Does that make sense? But because they're included in the aggregate, that number may in fact represent our overall performance as a school district. So we're going to start, as we do, with English language arts. This is on the PSSA performance. A reminder for this group or anyone watching at home, PSSAs are administered around the Commonwealth in grades 3 through 8. And so this is the proficiency in ELA. I gave you 3 years of data, 22, 23, 23, 24, and then last year, 24, 25. 67% of our students last year met for the proficient and advanced performance in English language arts, while 46% of those students who experience economic disadvantage met that same proficiency band. So there's a notable performance gap between those two groups of students. And so we need to sort of continue to pay attention and dig deeper as we look at what's getting in the way or what are the barriers for those students with economic disadvantage. When you look at mathematics, the similar disparity exists. The performance in PSSA mathematics is at 56%. And then when you look at students who experience economic disadvantage, their performance band in advanced to proficient is 34% of the students. So again, the performance math trails behind ELA, which is true statewide. Our performance still is exponentially higher than the rest of the Commonwealth. However, that said, there's still this difference of performance that requires us to dig and figure out sort of what we can do to put support in place. That same data exists when you start to move into the Keystone tests. Keystones are end of course assessments that are tagged to particular courses. Keystone in literature is given at the end of the 10th grade English language arts course. So when you take that course, you take this test. 72% of the students last year scored in the proficient or advanced performance band, while 54% of students who experience economic disadvantage scored in that same band. And finally, the Keystone proficiency in algebra. 50% of the students who took the Keystone in algebra scored proficient or advanced, while 33% of those who experience economic disadvantage earned a rating of proficient or advanced on their assessment. So you continue to see these milestones in these key courses, but then the disparity in performance between sort of the overall student body and those who experience economic disadvantage. Any questions or clarification I can offer before we move on to the next set of data? In the past, we've also shared science data, but as I've shared with this members of the committee who've been around for a minute, last year was a pilot year of the new test towards the STEELS standards in science. Therefore, the state's results in science testing, both in biology and in 5th and 8th grade science, were not made public. We received the results, but they were not aggregated into an overall performance for a school or a school district. So we did not report to you the science data because it's still in flux. So we'll hopefully have that in a year or so as the state finishes that alignment of the new test. Dr. Yannicone, pre-ACT.
Thank you, Dr. Johnston. Apologize. I'm not at my office, so I'm just getting adjusted to this little space I have at the Delaware County Intermediate Unit right now. So several years ago, we made the decision to begin administering the pre-ACT. We had been administering the PSAT for a number of years, but we added the pre-ACT because this is another standardized assessment that students can use when they're applying to college or to post-secondary programs. So you'll see here that the national pre-ACT or PACT average in math is a 19, and you can see where we are performing consistently above that national average, though there's certainly room for growth. In addition to that, the national average on the PACT in reading is 20, and we are again outpacing that national average as a district. And this test is administered in the 10th grade. We're very happy that our students have been able to take advantage of the PACT, and the district supports this both financially and with allocation of time and resources at the high school. So this is just another set of data that we've been looking at. Similarly, the PSAT we administer each October, and you can see here consistent scores over the last 3 years, and we continue to be above the national average on the PSAT, which is traditionally taken by our juniors. In addition to that, as you know, we've been working on our graduation rates. We have wanted to make sure that all of our students have meaningful post-secondary plans at the conclusion of their 4 years of high school. And so these graduation rates have moved into the direction we believed we were capable of, which is making sure that 100% of our students have meaningful post-secondary plans upon the end of senior year. And finally, I shared this information at the beginning of the school year with all of our staff. It's a real point of pride for us this year that we have seen the highest ever local, regional, and state rankings, as well as national rankings for the high school on U.S. News and World Report. U.S. News utilizes several key measures. They use the Keystone exams in math, reading, and science, which this is lagging data. So this is data from 2023. And so we expect our rankings to continue to do well as we've continued to grow in our proficiency rates. In addition to that, our students who have had access to advanced placement coursework and who have scored at least a 3 or better on one exam or more, which is the second measure there, continues to rise. And so we've seen this year a significant jump from 2024 to 2025 in our rankings. And again, we anticipate continued improvement in this area. The reason why these rankings are relevant is that colleges and universities utilize the rankings to determine the weight or the strength of the transcript that students send to colleges and universities when they are making application. So we're going to continue to work in these areas, graduation rate, as well as Keystone proficiency, and then access and success in AP coursework.
Thanks, Dr. Yannicko. So for members of the board, when we did this review with our administrative team and then ultimately with the overall faculty, really we had three key takeaways, right? That we believe that there are areas of strength and yet there are persistent challenges. Our challenges in serving those students who experience economic disadvantage are not limited to Springfield Township. This is a national trend. And in fact, our students, compared to national performance of students who do experience those economic challenges, we are outperforming the sort of national and state profile. That said, we still believe that we have opportunities to continue to do better. And so we also think that these results help more than around content mastery. The ability to take these exams, to take these tests and do your best work has been an effort from all of the buildings and the administrative team to try to make sure that our students understand the importance that in life they're given opportunities to take these kinds of measures. And while they are a single snapshot, it gives us feedback on how we're doing in comparison to other people, other school districts who have the exact same snapshot. So it is just an opportunity for us to continue to refine and focus our performance. And ultimately, one of the things we know is that we're working to prepare students for life beyond school, right? Like that while we know that what we do here for the 13 years or some period of time that the students are with us is important, there are many other more important things. And certainly that is literacy and mathematics are critical to post-secondary success. No matter what students are going to do, having success in those two academic areas in school leads to greater success outside of school or after school. We believe that those students will be better equipped for college, career, and civic life, and that these skills and this opportunity is not yet equitable for those students who experience economic disadvantage. So we took those three things, we really focused them together, and then our building administrators personalized that and aligned that focus into their work for their building priorities for the coming year. And as we always do, we're going to bring them in to have a conversation and share with you how they are using this information along with our district strategic plan to focus their year ahead in focusing not only on student achievement, but also professional learning for our faculty. And so, as we said, this is our shared purpose. I'm reminding you that we have two district-wide goals that are relevant here. Student achievement, increasing achievement levels for all students while maintaining high levels of engagement and belonging, and also those high leverage instructional and assessment strategies, consistent and effective feedback and evaluation system for all of our faculty and staff. Those are the two that we're going to focus the most on as they come together. this is too small to read, but it is a single slide that gives you everybody's goals all at one time in both the departments and in the schools. And then we're going to break these down individually so that you can see them more specifically. And as we often do, Dr. Markle loves to kick us off representing our K-2 school. Dr. Markle, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Johnson. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I'm happy to report our Enfield goals for this year. As you might remember, last year we started our first year implementation with our new ELA program, which it's CKLA. And so we're really excited to be kicking off year 2. Just kind of the current feedback, the staff's really feeling really comfortable because this time last year, like the nerves were high. They were still learning it, and they put so much hard work into last year that this year we're really, getting into the groove of it and really looking at how this program really supports covering all of the standards that we need to teach at the kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade level. And so we want to continue with looking at our K-2 learners and student achievement by keeping a focus on CKLA. And so what we found was really, really beneficial is having weekly grade level planning meetings where we really dive into the results that students are showing on their CKLA assessments and other data points. And an important piece of this to make sure that our students are, we're getting a gauge of how they're doing. We're continuing to do our benchmarks that happen in the beginning of the year, in the middle of the year, and the end of the year. And you might remember from a spring academic affairs is that we made a change with the tool that we're using. So we're using M-Class that just gives us some really good data about specifically where students are shining and where areas that we need to continue to focus. And so I'm happy to report that we just finished those assessments. Overall, our students are doing really well, but the students that are just not exactly where we need them to be, we've targeted them with some reading support through our reading specialists and our reading aides, and then while collaborating with our classroom teachers. So we feel that we have a really good plan in place. We just finished our data review sessions. And then we really are fortunate at Enfield. We are working with our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students. And so you've heard me in the past talk a lot about our philosophy of our responsive classroom, but we just want to continue to build on that, where looking at who are our Enfield students? What are those kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students? How do they learn? What are the milestones? And so I'm excited for the work that we're doing this year, is where we're really looking together as a staff of looking at what is developmentally appropriate instructional strategies for our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students. How do we, continue to build their love of learning? How do we continue to change pace with how they learn best now, right? This might look different than it did 10 years ago. And so our work is really focused on developmentally appropriate instructional strategies, providing that for our students this year. And so we're looking at how do K-2 students learn best? In August, we had a really nice session and we've reviewed some different milestones where we looked at Chip Wood's yardsticks. For each year, he gives some milestones. And so we had some great conversations that really led us to helping us develop what's our ideal classrooms and how can we be responsive to the needs of our students. So we're excited for this work that we're doing, and I'm open for questions if anyone has any.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Markle? Thanks, Meg.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I'm going to bring Mr. Spiker, our Erdenheim principal, who has our 3 through 5 elementary school. Mr. Spiker.
Hi, everybody. Excuse my background. I'm coming to you from a parking lot before I have an appointment. So thanks for understanding that. But excited to share our plan for Erdenheim this year. A lot of commonalities with what Dr. Markle shared, where we're trying to really focus on 2 big things this year at Erdenheim. I'm continuing that 2nd year work in our core ELA instruction through the implementation of CKLA, and then also putting some time and energy on focus on our tier 2 classroom interventions. So that starts off with, we spent a bunch of time actually beginning last spring through the summer and into the beginning of this year to really refresh the vision for our daily student intervention block that we've renamed WIN. we've had this time on the schedule in recent years, but we really wanted to maximize that time more to make it more purposeful. So each student each day is getting targeted in instruction based on their needs. And that actually goes into one of the next action steps was we've really done a great job, headed up by our reading and math specialist, of pulling in multiple data points, both from last year, from this year for both ELA and math, to really paint a full picture of students so we can make sure that we're matching up the right students with the right intervention and the right level of need. Some of those interventions happening on a pull-out basis through special education groups or reading or math specialist groups, but also those interventions happening from the homeroom teacher. So really put a lot of time in there. Quickly jumping over to the staff development side, we've also worked this August to really make sure that homeroom teachers have the resources, the guidance, the training on how to maximize that time. So we're not just saying, hey, improve this time, make it more purposeful. We're trying to match that with giving them the resources and the support so they can do a really great job, because this is it's an extra challenge for homeroom teachers after they're teaching all their core instruction to also do this intervention work. So we want to make sure that we're setting them up for success. And then we're committed to using our monthly PLC meetings throughout the year for win planning and reflection, right? So for teams to get together, to look at recent data, to adjust the focus of groups, to potentially to decide if kids have to move from group to group. So having that touch point once a month, that they've got dedicated time to do this work, because to do this well, it is something that takes time. So those are all on the win side. On the CKLA side, on that staff development goal, that third goal, we're continuing the structure that we had last year, where we meet once a week with all the teachers teaching CKLA, with an administrator, instructional coach, reading specialist, to both look at upcoming lessons to make sure that everybody's set up for success, as well as looking at recent student work to see what's working, what are kids picking up on, and where there are gaps, so that can inform our instruction moving forward. And then both for CKLA and for WIN, we're committed to doing weekly administrator walkthroughs. So myself and Courtney, my assistant principal, so we can have our finger on the pulse of how things are going, so we can adjust plans, give feedback to teachers, highlight successes, and where we need to give more support, we can do that. So that's our plan for Erdenheim on CKLA and for WIN this year, if anyone has any questions for me.
Thanks, Mr. Spiker. Questions or comments from anyone? Thanks, Mr. Spiker. I
Thanks,
appreciate it. I
everyone.
know you have an appointment and you may need to excuse yourself. I understand. Thanks for being with us. Speaking of alternative locations, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Mangano.
Yes, I too am in an alternate location, but I found a good spot, so I'm hiding. I'm just teasing. Nice to see everybody tonight. Excited to talk about the middle school. And I love that I get to go right after the building blocks of Meg and Ben, because it leads right into and we continue the work of WIN, which is really exciting. So the middle school this year took a deep dive into two specific areas when we talk about those larger goals as a school district. How can then we define that for our building and for our learners? And so I want to talk about the two in terms of obviously student achievement and staff development. For our student achievement goal, what I want to point out is the deep dive that our administrative team took this summer, really looking through not just PSSA data. We really broke down strands and standards, and we wanted to try to find something that we could really hone in on with our students and our teachers. This took some sifting and Jason Payne, I'll give it to him. He went to a Linkit training. He really did a lot of work to truly come back and teach us how to dig deeper, our coaches. So I really want to give some praise to my admin team, because they really helped with this first goal in particular. In terms of the two that we pointed out are what you can see here are key ideas and details, and for ELA and math expressions and equations. And we really tried to look at all students across the board. These two areas in these two specific standards were the weakest across the board. So then we took our grade level groups and thought, okay, that's how we're going to make our intervention groups. Again, same concept with WIN, giving students what they need. But our WIN this year is broken down into 5 different days, 2 of which are interventions. So on 2 days of the week, everybody breaks down into how they can improve in these specific areas. They're assigned, the groups are set up. And we did this very purposefully this year because we wanted to get good at it. It's new to our staff, it's new to our kids, and we really wanted to show them how an intervention period can work with the goal of some gradual release that next year that's something they can build on. And then we're also using progress monitoring data throughout the year with Linkit to see if what we're doing to target those interventions and to provide those intervention steps through these intervention periods, is it working? And is it not working? And then we as administrators are holding ourselves accountable as mirrors of this work to go in and even watch what's happening during, we're doing walks throughout all the WIN periods and our other intervention periods to see what's happening, what's not happening, which also gives us information for how we can inform what we do to not only help teachers, help students get better at what we're doing. Our other goal, related to staff development, is when we think about student achievement, in order for us as administrators to put teachers in the best positions they need to be in to be working with kids, is through what we can provide to them to become better learners themselves. So with this goal, we are really targeting our professional development and what we're doing for them so that they too can improve in a specific area, again, that we found was also linked to the strands of the key ideas and details and expressions and equations, really with a hyper focus on student discourse and higher level thinking and that differentiated learning. We thought that this would be a great way for us to dovetail both of these 2 goals. So again, we're using targeted walks and observations. We're talking about this specific piece when we're doing direct observations. And then we're also going through in our walkthroughs, and we have, for us as administrators, a key set of walkthrough questions that we're asking so that we can review data. Again, is it working? Is it not working? And what do we need to improve upon for their professional development? The whole goal with all of this is, again, to make sure that we're getting feedback either in real time or from staff on what we're providing, that we're giving staff what they need ultimately so that they can deliver what they need to have kids get better at what and get that gap shorter if we can, and have all students on a trajectory of improvement. So a lot of words, sorry. Questions, anyone?
Any questions for Dr. Mangano? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
And certainly last but not least of our building principals, Dr. Rittenhouse.
Hello. Under student achievement, looking at the achievement gap, economically disadvantaged students, we saw earlier that's about 23%. We continue to have our lunch and learn weekly continual examination of student grades. We had our meeting with guidance going over the D and F report. We had 127 students with Ds and Fs, and that was reduced to 97 just in the last week. And that's for a variety of reasons, but I would hope that a lot of that is having access to 30 minutes a day of tutoring from the teachers. We want to expand and publicize our student access opportunities through acceleration and credit recovery opportunities. I have certainly funding for that if need be. That's flexible scheduling, that's summer programs, that's online options, ensure equitable participation. I'm very immensely appreciative of the school district and the school board. We fund the PSAT for every student, the pre-ACT for every student, and AP courses for all of our students. And we have a very high participation rate there, and where no student has to pay, and there's no barriers there, and I certainly appreciate that. And then data teams to examine grades, particularly with that 23% and our testing results. We have, like I said, a lot of some schools have the PSAT, you have to register for it, pay for it, pre-ACT, et cetera. We ask that every 10th grader takes the pre-ACT, every 11th grader takes the PSAT. We also are now giving the SAT, which I didn't put in here, during the school day. It eliminates a lot of barriers, particularly just simply for registering, and every AP course is paid for. If you take 4 or 5 AP courses, you could be paying $500. For that. And under staff development, we unveiled our new 60-30 10 grading this year. We had our new student information system last year, announced it in the spring to the staff. Had back to school night probably three weeks ago, and put up a slide that said, here's how we're grading students, and we're really putting our staff development around that. That we're making sure that we calibrate our grade, and we have sessions to identify that. Summative 60%, formative 30%, and habits of learning is 10%. That's across the board. For all of our courses in the past, it has been different systems, different percentages, different grading approaches, which were all good. But this is just being standard across the board. For all the classes. The staff's done a nice job, and we're trying to shift that dialogue. How do I grade this? To look, what does this grade communicate about student learning? And then we continue during our in-servicing to look at, the three categories: summative, formative, and habits of learning, and why are they put in there. We also make that a kind of a centerpiece of our pre and post observations, administrative review, and support for consistent staff usage of the three categories for grades. I've been very proud of the staff and the students on the last month on how we've approached this, standard grading system. So that's the 2 high school goals.
Thanks, Dr. Rittenhouse. Any questions or comments for Dr. Rittenhouse?
I do. Thank you, Dr. Rittenhouse. First of all, can I give you kudos for your outfit supporting the Phillies? You are very committed this evening.
I didn't even notice. Thank you. Who knows what I wear every day? I got the hat on too, so I'll take the hat on and be a good member here. So,
I just wanted to call out the point 2 for the student achievement. I really like the having that flexibility in there, especially around like the summer courses, and really publicizing those. My high school age student did a course at Montgomery County Community College, partly because I saw the presentation last time round, and I was like, oh, this would be great for you to do. So I think making sure that those appear available to students as well, even just like advertising, I think is a really good approach.
Thanks, Dr. Aberle.
thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Dr. Dennis.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. So our Student Services Department has established some goals for ourselves this year as well. The first being really continuing to articulate out our instructional resources and supports for students. So we've been working and have started this progress from last year and into this year, really making sure that we have important summary guides for staff around what the intervention resources are, and then sort of helping our teachers articulate some of our progress monitoring tools. So we have a little more consistency across our 4 buildings. So as parents are moving through our systems, it makes more sense. They have time to get familiar with some of those programs and really understand how they're working and supporting their student. We also are trying to work on some of those community facing documents, so much like in the Office of Teaching and Learning, as Dr. Johnson is really working on creating those curriculum guides. You look at scope and sequence. Special ed's a little bit different because we're not doing full-fledged curriculum, but we want parents to really understand the types of intervention resources that we're using to really target the deficit areas for their students. So we're going to be working on some of those community-based documents and really coordinating our goals, with my special education supervisor, Mrs. Schrage, making sure that what she's doing is aligning with the work that we're we're doing as a whole department. And she and I working really close together so that those messages are consistent across all 4 buildings. So we're really working to kind of just round out all of our supports and services and make sure that they're clearly articulated to our teams as to how they work in our building. And then our second goal is really working on creating some of those high leverage practices in special education. So we really want our students to be challenged in their IEP goals. So one of the things that we're really working on, and Mrs. Schrage is kind of taking the lead on, is our standards aligned instruction for our most complex learners. So through Pennsylvania Department of Education, they've really been working on these essential elements, which are stepping block standards to our grade level standards related to areas that are tested through standardized testing, ELA, math, science. So our students who take the alternate state assessment have these essential elements that they are evaluated on that Pennsylvania assessment. And so we're really focusing on making sure that we are using those elements in our instructional planning, in our goal setting for students, and really following that progression to make sure that, again, we're really moving our students forward in their skill sets. We're also looking at, we really are moving our departments as just data-informed intervention and decision making. So we are solidifying some of our progress monitoring tools. We, through our professional development, are working on helping teachers write goals that work, well and in line with those progress monitoring tools, and making sure that data is really driving our goals for our students as well as their progress in their programs. And just making sure that we're doing that progress monitoring at the intervals that we're required to do them. So those are our 2 big goals for this year in special education. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thanks, Dr. Dennis. And certainly not, question? Okay. Dr. Lutz, you're on.
Thank you
Last
so
department.
much. Thanks. So the Office of Support Services is building again off of last year's goals. Last year, you might recall, we really tackled our multi-tiered systems of support. And this year, as each building has worked really hard to have a dedicated team that's striving towards making sure that all students are making progress, we're going back into that system with a focus on that disaggregated data analysis. We're making opportunities for professional development for staff members so that they are able to use our Linkit system and all of the really great data that we collect throughout the year so that they know what they're looking for. We're making sure that we're looking at those academic data sets and sharing that out with our building teams. You saw a lot of great information that was shared tonight, but we dig into that on a student level to make sure that we're servicing the right students when we have that win time or any of those pull-out supports for students. And then continuing to go back and make sure that our MTSS system is effective and that it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is helping kids make progress and making sure that all of that data, we look at it, we pull that data out. We've added some new fields to the forms that we use to collect students that we might need to take a closer look at through our MTSS system, so that at the end of the year, we can collate all of that data and really look at who are we serving, what populations of students are trending, and then how can we refine the process better for next year. Our second goal really focuses on staff development. As you heard Dr. Johnston say earlier tonight, when we look at that student data and when we're looking at students who come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, there's a lot of overlap with those students. You heard her give that statistic on our students who receive English language services, which those students have a lot of strengths. They're multilingual students. That's the new term, ML. But we also know that we have a lot of work to do with them to help them better understand and receive services in the English language. And so we're really focusing in on them this year, servicing those teachers that provide that instruction so that we have a more data-driven program that we're able to offer. We have a lot of really great interventions that we partner with the MC MCIU to provide to those students. Just want to make sure that we're connecting those ELD teachers so that they're able to meet with their Java-like colleagues. We're actually going to be attending the begins together at the MCIU so that we can learn from other districts around us who have larger populations and how we can help support that growth and development of our students. Get back into those classrooms. You've heard a lot of people talk about the classroom observations. That really is key to making sure that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and providing feedback to members. Taking a look at that data, we're really fortunate for our ELD students. We have pre and post data so that we can look at where have we been effective along the way and what are some areas that we still need to grow in.
Thanks, Dr. Lutz.
Thanks.
Any questions or comments for Dr. Lutz? All right. Certainly, as we wrap this up, one of the things that I'm hoping members of this committee can see is the intersection between the way in which we analyzed and explored our data, the goals and vision we have for our school district, and then the strategic and direct action steps that we're putting into place collaboratively, which overlap across our team, right? How can we invest in making sure our tier 1 instruction is solid, students who need intervention receive high quality instruction, and that we use that instruction to take a look at overall data on our program and performance, like who are the kids who are getting referred to those MTSS teams? Is what we have in place effective or efficient? So we're building those systems to create sort of continued focus. I'm going to repeat myself on continuous improvement. What's the way in which we can build those structures and supports so that we're not surprised? We know what we're doing. We know to what we can attribute our success and our growth. And in the end, you know that we feel strongly that the ability to target these particular areas helps ensure that our students are equipped to have access to all the pathways that they want in their future as they move into college, career, and civic life. Questions or comments from our committee? Excellent. Usually, is there any other sort of surrounding questions or comments? Typically, we would allow for public comment, but earlier, Mr. Wexler, you can confirm that I'm still accurate. At this time, we don't have any outside participants viewing us live this afternoon.
That is correct.
Okay. An update to our meeting plan. Initially, we were not necessarily going to convene this committee until January. Alas, that's way too long for us to all be separated. Nice try, Dr. Aberly. But on November 24th, I thought it'd be a great way to celebrate my birthday by bringing us together at 4 o'clock. My birthday's actually the day before, but we'll pretend like it's not. At 4 o'clock for a virtual meeting. Dr. Mangano and her team will be the all-stars of that conversation, presenting additional information on the update on the middle school project, as well as the revamped schedule, which by then we'll have solidified, and be ready to present to this committee so that we can continue to talk about that. And I have the K-12 physical education department scheduled to attend so that they can provide an overview of their proposed curriculum updates for their physical education courses. And best case scenario, computer science at the high school. We'll be ready to present her course proposals also that night. So a busy night yet again in November. So I will have that added to everyone's calendars. Any final questions or comments before we adjourn? Oh, 5 o'clock straight on. How about that? Mrs. Bell, I promised we'd be close. If there's no other questions, I really appreciate everyone being with us. Dr. Aberly, I will get you some notes to share at the board meeting. And I appreciate everyone being present and engaged this evening. Have a great rest of your night. Thanks again.
Yeah, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.